Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well today and welcome on the ADHD Melly Show. So today I'm going to be with the anxiety coach Bibinaz. I hope you're going to enjoy this show today. So I'm going to bring her up in and everybody clap their hands for Bibi. So how
Hi,
are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm going very fine. I'm so happy to have you today.
Me too. I'm super excited. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So before we start, can you introduce yourself a little bit to the people that don't know you?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Bibi, and I'm an anxiety coach, and I have a program where I help professionals end anxiety permanently.
So what is your first tips for people that got anxiety because they're neurodivergent like me? So I'm giving you an example. I always been scared of presenting myself to people because I was always anxious about what people will think about me because I got bad experience in the past, like when I was a troubled kid. So I was always put back on in my place. So what is will be your first tip for those people like me, or even when they grow into adulthood, to feel a bit more empowered with their own challenge?
Yeah, I think what you've done is great because you use your maybe pain and turned it into power. So, what you're doing even now, you're going on lives, you're putting yourself out there, but not everybody can do that, right? Not everybody is strong enough to really face their fears. So, I think if you can't face your fears, you should really work around, first of all, self compassion, that everybody has fears. And being kind to yourself in the process, and then trying to really see if you can manage a fear yourself. But if you see that it's bigger than you and it stands in your way, definitely getting some help. If it comes to judgment, like a really big thing is when we ask people, do you judge? Everyone's like, yeah, doesn't everyone? But it's actually not true. Not everybody judges, and judging is a bad habit that's picked up. And you once you stop judging people, your perspective on the world changes. You believe that not everyone judges because you don't judge anymore, right? So that's a big thing that we actually focus on too in my program as well. Judgment, it's a big one.
Yeah, it's true, because even I sometimes judge people
Totally.
because I feel as I have so many challenges, I say, oh, there's people worse than me in life, and it's difficult for me to not judge those people. Say, oh, okay, I'm a little bit better than that. It's empowering myself, but at the same time, it's not a good way to do so. So, which is the tip that you could give to somebody to empower themselves without putting people down?
Yeah, comparing is very toxic because it never counts. Okay. So if we compare ourselves to someone else, like you can compare yourself to someone who's, let's say, doing better, and you can be like, oh, I wish I was them. And then you can look at someone who's not doing, you're like, well, thank God I'm not them. So you're still comparing both ways. But why comparing doesn't count is, sure, we can compare our looks to someone and all that, but it's like that's very surface level thinking, because it's like, what's the past of that person? What has this person through? Once you look at it deeper like that, then you're not really comparing apples to apples. You're comparing apples to oranges, so then it cancels. It doesn't count because we all have such different pasts. Even if you see the most gorgeous woman and you're like, oh my God, I wish I looked like that. But it's like, maybe she has terrible eating disorder. Maybe she was abused her whole life and her image is her everything. She looks amazing, but she's really hurt on the end. Like, you just don't know people's story, right? So that's why I always think comparing is, it just doesn't really count. So you have to acknowledge when you're comparing yourself to someone else. And even if you're doing it professionally, like, oh, look where they are, I'm not there. But it's like, what's their story? What has been your
So
story?
So, if we go a little bit past in your life, how did you decide to be an anxiety coach? Have you suffered anxiety yourself? Can you talk to me a little bit
Yes.
about that?
Totally. Yeah. Oh, I've suffered. So I used to be an interior designer for 15 years, but I had carcinophobia, which is the phobia of getting cancer. And mine was really, really bad. So every day that I would wake up, I would plan my funeral. Then I'd go in front of the mirror and I would check my body for lumps. And then I'd go on Google and I'd Google different types of cancers and memorize the symptoms. So if I got one of the symptoms, I could catch the cancer before it spread. So like anytime I got a headache, I had a brain tumor, I thought, and I would like have a panic attack. If my back hurt, I was like, okay, I have bone cancer, and I would like Google where to go in the world to do treatment. But I just had like, I remember my coach one time, she was like, just flip your mattress. And I was like, no, I have bone cancer. You don't get it. And I was going, so yeah, 10 years I had terrible anxiety. And I think I went to like 25 professionals and I still had it, but mine was really crippling. I was a high functioning anxious person. So I could go to work, I could do everything. I would have silent panic attacks, but on the inside, I was like dead pretty much. I was always living in not even fear, in phobia, right? And then, so finally, I found a coach who she was amazing and really knew what to do with anxiety. And then I healed my anxiety. And once I did, I decided that's what I want to do for other people. So I left my corporate job and then started my company.
And in 1 to 10, how will you say that your anxiety is now about, like you said, fear of cancer?
0.
You're not scared anymore?
Not at all. No.
And what was the declic of that coach that make you say, that makes you understand that that fear was irrational?
Yeah, I think I had to do trauma work. I had to do a lot of healing on past trauma. And then what I did, what I was doing a lot, and what people with anxiety do a lot, is the focus is constantly on what you don't want. Like I don't want to fail, or I don't want to get sick, and I don't want to die. Or in my case, it was like, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to die, I don't want to do chemo, I don't want to have to go. It was all about don't wants. And then a big thing for me was shifting on what I want. And what I wanted was health. So then I started picking books up about nutrition. I learned about fasting. I learned about the water that I drink. I learned about like the effect of fitness on the body. So I really focused on what I want. And so my perspective really changed. It's like, no, you don't just get sick. Well, you do sometimes, but I'm like, there's lots of ways you can still prevent it and make healthy decisions and good choices in your life. So I think that the mixture of that and healing trauma did the job.
Yeah, at the same time, if you only focus on the bad thing, you can get it, like failure. If you
Totally.
always think that you're going to fail,
You'll fail.
yeah, exactly. It won't maybe not do that with cancer, but you know what I mean,
Yeah, like even with cancer, it could, because the amount that the heaviness of energy that I was putting on my body every day about cancer. Well, if I'm doing that on the outside, like what is that doing to my cells on the inside? The stress and the vibration of anxiety that I was in daily was so extreme.
So if we go more back to anxiety, to kill that anxiety, so if I give you an example, because you say you work with professional too, that interview is very stressful, anxiety, you can get very anxiety just for that. You're just like, I don't want to go there. And sometimes you can just not go to the interview because you're so scared of just, again, failing. So what is the tips that you will give to those people to just feel a little bit better about themselves and just go, even if they fail, it's okay, and just feel a little bit less anxious about speaking to another person that you don't know? What will you say to those people?
Yeah, I think a big thing for interviews is people forget that the person sitting on the other side, they're just like you. They might not have your fear, but they have fears too. They have insecurities too. And they were sitting where you're sitting one day. They were there, right? And I think people forget that. And it's good to remind yourself that they are equal, you know, and they're a person as well. And then I think the other part of it that really falls into that, people have a hard time in interviews. There's a lack of self acceptance of who they are. They don't think they're good enough. They don't think they're worthy. They don't think they matter, you know? And so when you're missing self acceptance, you feel like that. So a big thing would be to, before an interview, write a list of all your wins, everything you've achieved in your life. You know, if you're like a dad or you're a mom or you work with companies or you had summer jobs, write down all your achievements and see who you are, you know, see how much you won in life. So it gives yourself that boost to really go in there and know that you do matter, right? And the last thing is, again, goes back to judgment. It's so funny, like when you judge a lot, you fear judgment a lot. If you stop judging, like every time, if you, so what I used to judge before, I don't judge honestly at all anymore, very rarely, but I used to judge on appearance a lot. Like, oh, what is that person wearing? You know, because I was raised in a house that appearance was everything, right? Like it was a big pressure on us appearance. So I had to stop, you know, because, and then every time I would judge, oh, bless, I'm blessing that person. Nope, not judging. So like I remember the first one I started putting it into practice, I was walking in the park and I was like, bless, 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 you know? And now I can just walk through the whole park and I don't judge a single person. But my perspective changed also on the world judging me. I don't think people judge. I don't think everybody judges. People judge, but not everyone. Right?
Yeah, that makes me that remember me that at the beginning of that video, I just saw that my uniform was just sitting there in front of everybody. I just say myself, what do you want me to do? It's there. I forgot to take it off. It's there.
Yeah.
Everybody's going
Like,
to
who
see.
cares?
What the heck? Of course, it would have been better if it wasn't there, but I cannot change it. I'm not
Yeah.
going to delete that video because my uniform was there. You know, I just
And it
what
happened. Like,
yeah.
what's wrong with it?
At least it's not underwear. It could have been worse.
Exactly. Totally.
So yeah. So can you give me some example of? I'm not going to ask for names or anything, but some example cases that you have worked with that can help other people that are listening to us today.
Yeah, so I've worked with many, many types of anxiety. You know, I've worked with performance anxiety. I've worked with a lot of people who had a hard time presenting or interviews or public speaking, and they don't have anxiety anymore and they can do it. And they've changed jobs and they've gotten hired by their dream companies. I've worked with, you know, people who weren't leaving the house for 2 years, weren't able to drive for years, and then now they're driving everywhere. They can leave the house and they feel fine. Um, I've worked with people with claustrophobia a lot, and they don't have it anymore. Just so many different types. I worked with someone who was afraid of other people. So she literally couldn't like be around other human beings. And so she's fine now. So everyone's anxiety type is so different, and it's just a lot of social anxiety I've worked with. Um yeah.
So if I decide to hire you, how the first session would look like?
The first session would really be about, so a big thing in my program is, yes, we end anxiety, but we also work on building a very strong mindset. Because I always believe, sure, you can be anxiety free, but if you have a bad mindset, you'll go pick up some new obsession, right? Or you'll pick up a new type of anxiety for yourself. But if you have a strong mindset, that's where you can really end it permanently, right?
If you
And
have Oh,
Mm-hmm.
go.
I know. Just so first session, I really try to pick your mindset apart, see how you think, how you operate and things like that. So that's what it would look like. We would focus on mindset for sure.
So if I give you an example, if some people have anxiety about something they cannot change, I don't know, they have cancer and they have to go to chemotherapy, that they're anxious or not, or they don't have the money they would need to survive. I give you an example like that of situation that cannot be changed like right now because they have to face it because it's how it is, or just simply they need to go to school because they need it for their education. It can be any other type of thing that they need to face it because, or they need to take care of certain things, and for now they have to live with it. What will you do? I'm giving a lot of financial anxiety because that is something that a lot of people have struggled at least once in their life. So what will you do to help them just be a little bit more secure about themselves and just stop thinking about it and just do action to to stop it, you know?
Yeah. So more like financial anxiety, or if someone has like cancer and they're actually facing it, which one?
Financial for a starter.
Yeah.
So we're going to go with the cancer one.
Yeah.
It's
So
a good one.
financial, I've worked with people with financial anxiety, and it's an important one to heal because we're always dealing with money, and life is always going to surprise you, and sometimes it's expensive, but again, for the time it's expensive. But the thing is that people who have financial anxiety, they actually make it harder for themselves to make money because they're always obsessing about money. And so money is just such a big deal for them that it's like anything that comes to money gives them anxiety, but then they want more money. But it's like, okay, first we have to get rid of your definition and idea of money, so we work through that to be able to break that down for them to see why even money has so much power over them, right? And then once we can break all of that down and understand why, then their perspective on money changes, and then they make more money because money is not this big scary thing anymore. It's so weird how that always works though.
Yeah, the same with the when you try to find clients, if you just stop thinking about always the money, you can at least not only you're not going to be so insisting about get my
Mm-hmm.
service now, at least you're going to be more talkative to the person. You want to know their need, and you're not going to want to close the deal so fast then you don't even know the person. You can do so many mistakes on that person after, and that's not a good thing. So
Yeah.
when you're less anxiety with that, at least you can focus on the right things, like to find client the right way.
Yeah, you're more mission focused, whereas when you're money focused, you come across as desperate, and people can see it. People can see it that you're not being like authentic, it's about the money for you. People can really see that.
So I was talking about cancer. I'm sorry, talking about cancer because it was your last topic. So for me, it's easier to talk about it. So when
Yeah.
you have cancer for real and you have to face it for real, how do you will help that person to just they need to pass there because they have no choice. They live in that. They have it in them. You cannot just ignore it. You have to do something
Yeah.
about it. So what will you say to that person?
Yeah, so I've worked with quite a bit of cancer patients actually, and they do get a lot of anxiety when it comes to chemo and having to do chemo, and going through that whole thing is very, very hard for them. And they obviously, it's their life's on the line and they're anxious. And so when I work with them, we work really hard on positive mindset. So we work on building a positive mindset, even in something. So, like, let's say being told you have cancer is a worst case scenario for someone, right? It's like you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, we need to check it out. But the worst case scenario, someone's like, oh my God, what if I have cancer? And sometimes in life, the worst case scenarios actually happen. Like they become reality, right? But it's like, even in that, how can we find the best case scenario out of a situation that's very, we don't like it, it doesn't make us happy, it doesn't make us uncomfortable. Even in that, from a positive mindset, what best case scenario can we find? So I work with people to really like dig into that. And, you know, a lot of times people are like, cancer is actually the best thing that's ever happened to me. It changed me. It woke me up. It really taught me what it means to live in the now. I look at life differently. I actually live every day to the fullest. So even from a very negative situation, we work hard in finding the positives. And then the perspective of the patient, like the cancer patient, totally changes. So this helps their healing because they're not in stress in their body, you know? It helps their healing a lot, their mindset.
So what will you say? Because stress anxiety is really, it's like twins, you know, it's not exactly the same, but it's really similar in some ways. And anxiety can bring stress, and sometimes stress is just like normal, you know, you put stress on your body simply because you're doing sport, it's normal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's training your mind. So what will you say to the person? I don't know, there's something they cannot change right now, like I said, the money before, they cannot change it like now, but they can before. What will you say to that person to stop thinking about the upcoming, like I'm going to be poor, I'm going to get out of my house and stuff like that? How can you make those people just feel a little bit, unstress them a little bit? I know the reality is still there. It's going to happen if they don't put action into stopping this case scenario to happen. So what will you do to make to what do you will suggest them to do to make them to make it easier and stop thinking about it at least for 20 minutes, you know, just to relax on the and and work on the important matters in life than stressing, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, whenever people do this thing about, oh, I'm not going to think about it. I don't want to think about it. And it's like, it's literally like telling yourself, don't think of a pink elephant. You're going to keep thinking of a pink elephant. So it's like, it doesn't work. You have to solve through your obsessive thinking. And a lot of times with being stuck or financials, people obsess about control. They want control of what they can't control. Like, okay, my money's running out. Is that person going to call me? Am I going to get hired? And they sit and obsess about this. But it's like, if you actually get a piece of paper and you separate the middle in two, and on the left side you write control, and on the right side you write can't control, right? And if you sit down and write down literally what can you control about this situation and what you can't, you'll stop obsessing, because you'll see 99% of the time people focus on what they can't control, right? But when it's in front of you and you're looking at it, then it makes sense. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So you'll notice that if you sit there and think even for 10 hours about what you can't control, you're not going to get to a result. So give it up. Focus on what you can control and focus on that and do that best. You know, at some point you have to trust, surrender, let go, because if you can't control it, you can't control it.
Yeah, it's true. Like I said, I cannot control the fact of not having money, but I can control to add a small job like a cashier, like I decided to do, just for a couple of months, just to make sure that the ADHD Melly show succeed and everything's going well, and I get some sponsor and stuff like that. So I'm working on it part time for that, but also on ADHD Melly show, I take 30 hours. But if I can take 15 and the cashier job, why not? You know, it's just 15 hours, and at least I can pay my rent. You know, you just find the solution. And when you're too anxious, what was my case? I cannot think about that. I just want money now, money now. What I'm gonna do? And looking at my account at least 10 times a day just to make sure something's going to happen, but it's not the case.
Nothing happens. It's like, exactly, but that's really good. So you know, you're very strong that way, that you step into, you're okay with being uncomfortable because you're focused on the outcome of things, you know? And so that's really important. Again, exactly. You can't control that there's no money coming in right now, but what you can control is getting a part-time job. So then
Exactly.
that actually brings the stress down because it's like, okay, now there is some sort of money coming in.
Exactly. So what I needed is coming. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So
So what made you start this show?
because I have ADHD and I also suffer a little bit of anxiety. It's a little bit less than before, maybe because of the cashier job. I feel a
Yeah.
little bit more happy about myself because I was able to find that job. I get the interview the Monday and the Wednesday was already working.
Oh,
So
amazing.
yeah, because they're always searching for people right now because the students are going back to school. I'm also a student, by the way, so I do a lot of things at the same time. I have the ADHD Millie Show. I have my website company. I'm a student, and also I work as a cashier. So
Good for
it's
you. That's
yeah. So,
amazing.
but at the same time, I have to find the way to plan it accordingly to the goals that I have. It's easy for the cashier job because it's every day the same time, so it's easier to put it there. But I mean, I have to focus also on the clients of the website company. I don't have a lot. That's why I take the cashier job because the pandemic killed my business almost. So, and
Mm-hmm.
after I decided to put the ADHD Millie Show because I was searching for another real job instead, and I couldn't find it. People didn't really understand ADHD or even anxiety or mental health and about mental health and stuff like that. And I was like, why I'm not doing this? I do see people having some come doing it too, but I don't think it's really focused with other. They're more focused about themselves or about being like a doctor or something like that, or
Mm-hmm.
bringing specialists that have doctorate, a big diploma and stuff like that. And I feel like it was important for me to bring people that have their own story, like you have your own story about anxiety, and some people have others. There's some story about ADHD, autism, stuff like that, and they succeed. They are successful people. They have businesses or they
Yeah,
are employed
totally.
in really high company, and they can do it. And I want to show people that it is possible. For now, it's not the case for you, but if you work hard enough, it's possible. There's nothing that you cannot do. And that's a little bit why I created the ADHD Melly Show, because I wanted to share that with others, not only my stories, but stories about other person. And sometimes invite some specialists like you work with anxiety, you're a coach, etc. So you took you took a lot of hour of researching, and also you learn a lot about your own coach
Yeah.
and your own journey. So it's not like you're an anxiety coach but you never had anxiety. You did have anxiety,
Yeah, I did.
what it
Yeah,
is. So
totally.
that's why I decided to create the ADHD Melly Show, and I hope one day to have my studio. Next month I'm going to launch a Kickstarter campaign, and I hope it's going to fly out. So I have my little office where I can film, and I have a professional camera and stuff like that. And one day after this pandemic finish, I can bring the people in my studio and just
Yes, that would be amazing.
bring people in Montreal. It's a nice city, Montreal. I know it's in Canada, but
Montreal's my favorite place in Canada.
really.
Oh my God, I love it. The best.
Have you been in Vancouver?
I live in Vancouver.
Oh, you live in Vancouver. I like Vancouver too. I think it's nice too. Of course, it's more expensive and.
So expensive. Oh my God. But I love the people in Montreal. I think they're very nice, very sweet.
So yeah, I want to be so popular that I can actually invite the people.
Yeah, and you will
Um,
be, consistency, not giving up on your dreams for sure, right?
yeah, and I also have a podcast on Monday. It's been 2 weeks. I haven't posted anything because I had a new job and I need to learn to focus with my school and stuff like that. So I decided to cut it down for 2 weeks. But next Monday, I'm going to put a new
Well, you're
episode.
doing a lot of things, so good for you.
Yeah, so yeah, I have a big planner, big like that for 4 months. Seriously, it's so big. So yeah, I want to learn. I want to teach people how to plan like correctly to help them focus on their goals. I want them to
Mhm.
learn that ADHD and mental health is important to be aware about that. And it's not
Yeah.
because you have ADHD or even any disabilities or anything, you cannot work in life and you cannot do anything. You can if you want. So
You
that's
can
why
do
it is.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Good for you. I'm sure you're going to go very, very far.
Yeah, and you helped a lot. I never had so many comments on a post about my show. I'm so happy. I hope
Oh, I'm
people
so
are.
happy.
Yeah, seriously, I really hope that people, if they are not there today, they are going to rewatch that. And if you want, I'm going to send you the file so you can put it
Yeah,
back on. Yeah, I'm going to send you all this. So if you want it, I'm going
I would
to.
love it. And I'll put it on my website too.
Yeah, that's going to be great. So I was wondering, do you
Yes.
have a end word that you want to say? It's been 30 minutes. At least you have more question or anything that you want to share. The show normally lasts 30 to 45 minutes. So it depends of what you want to say. So don't no anxious about that. So if you want
Yeah.
to add something and go for it, you can talk as much as you want.
Yeah, I think what I would like to say is, you said it so beautifully. And I think that if people watch this show and they have anxiety or they have ADHD or, like you said, any other block, that's a block for them and they feel like it's blocking them from living their best life. I think it's so important to open up about it, talk about it. If you need to get help because, I still haven't I've worked with a lot of clients who are now anxiety free, but I still haven't met anyone in my program who had anxiety as bad as I did. I still haven't. And so if I could do it, I really believe anyone can do it. But I think you're going to have to want to heal and believe that you can, and believe that, like you said, you can have anything you want in life and there are no blockages, right? Sometimes maybe you have to take a different road. Maybe the road is harder. Sure, I'm not disagreeing with that, but it doesn't mean it's not possible.
Yeah, it's always possible if you want something in life very badly. Like I want that show to work, and I want to have thousands of people watching it every single Fridays because the show is all the Fridays. So I want that, and one day maybe I want to do a French version of that show. One day we'll never know. For now, I'm focusing in English, but I would like to have one French show each month or each 2 months or each three
Yeah, that's
months
a very
or
good
something like
idea.
that, just to put more inclusivity in that people can see it all around, at least in two language, right? I don't speak more than that for now, so it's going to be
No,
harder to.
exactly. That's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, really, and maybe travel in the US or in Great Britain, because I have a lot of people that are in my show too, and I would like to meet them in person too. I just hope that COVID's going to die one day. Seriously.
Me too. Me too. I'm with you.
So, did COVID affect your business or it did improve your business? Because I know that a lot of people got anxiety because of that. I'm going to ask another question then because we've talked
Yeah, of course.
about uh, about COVID. So, how was it for COVID for you?
Uh, COVID it's so funny. When COVID started, I was like telling people, I'm like, this is going to be something really big. And everybody was like, oh my God, you're just being so extreme and calm down. And now it's like, look outside. It happened. So I'm really glad you asked that question because as an anxiety coach, everyone thinks that like I'm doing great. And I'm like, oh, positive mindset. Like I'm fine. COVID. Yes, it's fine. But at the beginning, it was really fine for me because I really dived deeper into my business. Okay. So it was great. And, but now I can see how much I've changed since COVID. Like I was such a social person and now social gatherings and being social is kind of annoying for me. It's like, oh, I have to like go for dinner or hang out. It's now like I've gotten so comfortable for being home and just being on my own. And then now it's just different. It feels different for me. And I think I can even see it in myself. And I think everyone has got a very thin layer of depression in their subconscious, not in their conscious. You can be totally fine and happy, but I think it's impacted the world because you're always in this state of fear subconsciously. Like even if you go sit in a restaurant, okay, you're there, but you're like, oh, is this cup cleaned properly? Like, have they wiped the table? You know, subconsciously, you're always thinking COVID, COVID, COVID. And yeah, now it's hard for me. And I feel tired a lot of times. I feel like days are moving forward, but life is kind of on pause, and it feels very weird. And then I know people are getting divided, you know, through vaccination and passports, and vaccinations are like the vaccine people are telling the unvaxxed people like you're bad, and the other ones are like, no, you're stupid. And it's like, what's happening? You know, sometimes I feel like I was telling my girlfriend last night, I'm like, I feel like we're watching a really bad movie, you know?
Yeah,
But
it
it's
feels
reality.
weird. It feels weird to watch Walking Dead or something like that. Or like,
Oh, I love The Walking Dead, but I'm like, is that where we're going with this? Is this happening?
yes, it's so weird to watch that kind of movie or series, and you're like, okay, it's like we're in a pandemic right now. It's not exactly the same, but we never know what can happen, you know, with all the variants and stuff like that. You're not.
Yeah, it just feels like it's not going to end, and it's like,
yeah.
And the thought of that is heavy, you know, to think
Yes.
that, oh my God, to how much. And I know a lot of people suffered very bad in COVID. You know, I know people who had like a death wish, you know, that they don't want to be alive anymore, and they just can't see the light, and they're very so it's been so hard.
Really. And for me, it's more the fear of like everything's going to close again. Now there's the passport, but again, people don't like it. They see you're like weird because you're vaccinated, but at the same time, you think it's going to be the best thing because you want a normal life. But the very end, you're like wondering yourself, did I did that for nothing? You know, it's like it's going to close anyway because it's going
Montreal, you guys had the biggest protesting of all in Canada, right? Whoa, it was crazy how many people went out again. Well, and like also the vaccine mandate, right? That now they're mandating a lot of companies, and people are walking out their jobs because they don't want the vaccine, right?
Yeah, so the free will is not there anymore. There's the human rights and stuff like that. But at the same time, yes, but at the same time, we're in a pandemic. It's not the first time they mandate a vaccine because of a pandemic. In the past story that happened, so it's not the first time that happened. But at the same time, for me, you have your choice, but with the passport, you have like no choice anymore. It's like for that, I'm a little bit like I'm not sure, you know. But at the same time, you know, I'm just it's hard to put yourself in a mind because you don't know. Will they force me to have 5 vaccine or what? You know, at the same time, you don't really like to be vaccinated, and that's normal, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's the whole thing. There's so much unknown. That's why for me, I'm like, I'm surrendering. Like, what is gonna happen will happen. I'm just going to focus on me, my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, and just that's all I can do. That's all I can control.
Exactly. Let's control what we can, and we simply hope that we're going to celebrate Christmas with our families.
Exactly.
What was it in Montreal? We couldn't celebrate Christmas last year. It was forbidden.
I know here too. Just so sad.
Yeah. So we're going to. Oh, so I've seen my parent last weekend just to make sure they are not going to lock us down again, and I cannot go to see them at Thanksgiving. So we never know.
We never know, right? Now I think more than ever, it really, I think, to me at least, the living in the now, living in the moment, you know, it's more than ever showing up for me because it's like, okay, if now is okay, live it, because God knows tomorrow what's going to be decided.
Yeah, it's not like cancer and very bad disease, but it's almost a little bit like the same, you know, because it's like lockdown. You don't know what's going to happen next day if they are going to lock us down again. You cannot decide if you're going to have the COVID. Even if you're vaccinated, you don't know if you're going to survive it. You know, it's a little bit hard on the mind too. So I decided to focus myself in summer. Everything is almost like normal. I'm going to enjoy my summer every little bit.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's what I did.
yeah, that's all we can do, right?
Yeah. So we're going to leave you guys. At least you have some questions. Do you have another thing that you want to say, Bibi, before we end, or everything's fine and you have something else to say? Just go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm really glad I was on your show. I love what you're doing. I think it's so amazing because we need to speak more about mental health. It matters. It's so important. Everyone's dealing with it one way or another, and I think it's great to remember that if you work for companies, if you work for yourself, you're not alone. Like, we're going through all of this together, and even the people you look up to in your life, they have mental blocks too. So we're all going through things. I'll even have mental blocks sometimes, like, and I'm a coach, and so it doesn't mean that anyone's untouchable or, no, we all deal with stuff. So have self-compassion, be kind to yourself, don't compare yourself to others, and
You
don't
can
judge.
do anything
And when
if
you
you want
judge,
to.
feel like the world is judging you.
And you can do anything you want if you put a little bit more
Yes,
consistence and you're writing your goals down and you know exactly, or at least you try to know exactly what you want, but
yes,
at least see in the long term, not the short term. I know it's difficult when you have ADHD. You always think of the now because that's how the brain is working. But just see a little bit, not tomorrow, but at least next week, and you will see a difference in your life. You will see that you can do way more things than you think. And even if you can only work 6 hours instead of eight, it's okay. At least you work six. And the other 2 hours, take it to take a deep breath and shut your brain out if you can, as much as possible. Read books that empower you,
yep,
even if it's audible, because I know with ADHD it's really hard to read sometimes. It's the same for me when it's a little bit too specific book. It's not like I'm stupid and I don't understand, but I feel it's way easier for my brain to process
yes,
information when I hear it from somebody's other perspectives, like they read it for me, like a child. You do this with a child, you can do it with audible with too. And I find it so amazing that that service exists and it's very cheap. It's like $14, nothing.
yeah,
And you can have any books that you want, and it's very cool.
I agree. Beautifully said. I love that.
So I see you next week, guys, and I hope to see you very soon. In the comment, if you have, please say replay in the comment if you see that after. And I hope you have an amazing day, an amazing week, and we see you next Friday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.